Up, thumbs up. Tonight on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Black men traveling overseas. Why should black women care about us traveling overseas? Are we going over there to find women for sex? Or is it something more, productive while we're traveling overseas as black men? But there's this phenomena talking about us as black men. Let's talk about it today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Share and subscribe. All right, let's do that again. All right, thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, I love that introduction. It's almost like you're reporting some breaking news when I come on. I hope I basically am being heard. ScrewTube always has messed with my live. They don't like where black people, specifically black men, are doing live events where we are actually telling the truth relating to white supremacy, telling the truth about anything. But that's what we're going to continue to do. And also, we're going to be having our Patreon page, so thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. We are basically going to have an amazing topic, ladies and gentlemen. Shouts out to all of you listening to the Lawyer Henderson Show. Whether you leave a comment or not, we are always glad that you basically are tuning in. Now, I don't have a real set schedule because I've been doing so much stuff. I've been busy, family, producing film projects, doing book publishing. Family, I've been so busy. But I did have to come in to weigh in on this. And of course, every time I weigh in on a subject matter, family, you better believe that it is a topic to discuss. Today, we're talking about black men traveling overseas and why black women should care, why American women are basically just basically talking about this. Family, there is a crisis of dating inside the United States. I've been talking about it off and on in my personal life. I've been saying, of course, under the system of white supremacy, black men do not have any kind of real leverage in a marriage or in a relationship under the system of white supremacy. Our dear brother Nelly Fuller has taught us that as well. But we won't get into the deep meat of that aspect of it as relates to white supremacy. We will, but not deep. But I wanted just to really talk about black men getting their passports and they're traveling overseas and they're going to Brazil or they're going to Colombia. And these women are really acceptable. There is a lot of women on YouTube who was upset about this. One woman said that you all, of course, you all who try to get your passports and you owe child support or something like that, you can't travel overseas. So that black woman said, "A child needs to set y'all dusty ass down." So yeah, so we're on live talking about this crisis. Okay, but one YouTuber, as he describes, is that black men are winning overseas in the dating market, and trying to figure out how is he basically saying that black men are winning overseas in the dating market. In fact, um, have men that are traveling overseas to find women, but that's not all the reasons why we're traveling overseas. We also travel overseas to network. Of course, also the money in America. When you go overseas, of course, the currency to the American dollar to other currencies in other countries will afford us to have more abundance of things than it is if we was to stay in the United States. A lot of times, of course, black men or women, men in general, we are basically people who do like to pursue. We like to basically pursue other things as well. So, getting a passport is not a situation of turning your back on your country or turning your back on men. I mean, on women. Getting a passport is basically just to travel so you can see the world before you leave the world, right? And so, therefore, yes, I'm getting my passport. You know, this new phenomenon of just staying in the United States, you know what I'm saying, and not traveling the world, that's foolish. And don't let your family think that you're turning your back on them or whatever just because you want to travel somewhere out of the country. Yeah, don't do that. Don't basically don't let them try to make you feel bad about wanting to travel outside the country because we basically take a lot of crap in the United States as black men because under the system of white supremacy, women are not held accountable for their actions. Let's talk about it. And Chad and Brad, of course, their system worked for them, but even their women, they're having problems with their women here. And that's why they're traveling overseas. No one talks about, of course, as other this one specific YouTuber talked about. No one talks about the black women who, of course, go to Jamaica and decide to get these waxes on their behind and have sex in Jamaica. Nobody talks about that. And black men, of course, we don't talk about that. Now, I'm not here to basically advocate for interracial marriages and dating, of course, as you know. I always feel like there should be black relationships, but of course, there's black people and other working countries outside of the United States. There's black people outside the United States, y'all. Believe it or not, you know. And the vast majority of black people, of course, during the slave trade, went to Brazil, a place I would love to visit as well, besides Africa and other countries. But Brazil had one of the largest slave trades during the slave movement. And so the vast majority of blacks going to Brazil means that there's a lot of black people in Brazil and in Latin America. So when black men talk about just pursuing black women, they're not only talking about pursuing black women in the United States or in other European countries, or you also have to look in Africa and also possibly in Brazil. Black people are everywhere in the globe. You know, I know that the white supremacists got you thinking that we are only secluded in certain areas. That's why traveling is very, very important. You know, learning to travel and learning to experience different cultures is also important as well. It can help in certain things, of course, but traveling is not cheap. Traveling internationally costs money when you travel across the world, across the globe. And so, for instance, if black men are leaving to travel, in which this foolishness talking about we're going overseas seas just to pay for sex and all that stupid crap. Well, we could just do that here in the States. It's stupid. So we're not traveling just to go have sex with women overseas. I think more of it is because black men are treated better overseas. They're treated like kings in certain countries. And even though that all of every country that you might go to, you're not going to escape the system of white supremacy because white supremacy is global. So you're going to still face discrimination in a sense. There was a woman there who was warning us about there are certain places, of course, like in Spain, or a guy who warned us that there was a country like in Spain, for instance. Be very, very careful dating there. I don't know where his logic was as far as not going to Spain to date, but as I was coming on, I read that. So if you people can comment that is listening about why you shouldn't, as black men, go to Spain, I guess, to get relationships, I don't know. I would just like to hear that. But back to my point, traveling overseas is not basically cheap, right? If you go overseas to travel, the the fee, the airline fee, is going to be in the thousands, right? And then as you transfer your currency over to their currency, whatever country you're going to, then maybe you'll be able to save. You'll get with a local over there who knows the ends of ropes of saving money. So it's not cheap to get in on these airlines when you travel. Okay. So everybody should really travel. The white man travel all the time, of course, right? But let me just say this about traveling uh, overseas. The vast majority of us do travel overseas because we're in the business market. That we basically would love and love and love to network overseas. And if our businesses are growing, then why not network overseas with somebody who's doing the same thing, in South Africa or in parts of West or even in Europe or even in Brazil or other places, you see. And of course, you're going to meet people over there outside those countries and inside those countries' areas. You're going to meet women, of course. Okay? The women are everywhere. So when we talk there about black men traveling overseas, our brother Kevin Samuels, the late great Kevin Samuels, he talked about this. Kevin Samuels talked about the fact that if you are basically a woman in the United States, you refuse to get on a men's program, and then you start to get into your later years where you become as what he described as damaged goods, which means leftovers, you're going to have to consider sharing a man. It's just that simple. The late great Kevin Samuels was trying to basically tell these women that the options get slimmer when you have children as well, or when you get older and your biological clock starts ticking, right? So he basically gave a service of not only image consultant, but gave a service to provide to women that basically you're damaged goods after you turn 28. So your prime is somewhere around 18 to 27. Some people say 18 to 25. You're 26, 27, 28, you're at that borderline, and then you get in your 30s, the biological click, uh, you know, your biological clock starts ticking. Then you, as you get older, you might basically have men that is going to be in your inner circle, but most likely they're not going to marry you. Most likely those men are going to basically just have sex with you. They'll be available for them to come over to your house and just have sex with you, and that's it. So why is men or black men traveling overseas? Traveling overseas is not necessarily a bad thing, though, but it do concern black women and it also concerns white people. Because, of course, the black man in this society has been used, he's a punching bag in the West, especially in the United States. The black man is a punching bag for everybody to just punch us, mainly because of white supremacy. But the feminist movement is basically another problem. The feminist movement have taught women that they're independent, that they can do bad by themselves. The masculine women, those who be calling black men bruh, you see what I'm saying? Hey bruh, man, shit, stop that bruh, go on bruh. You see, those women have a masculine frame, you see, that turns men off. They're not having their feminine movement, they're not feminine enough. So men are saying, dang, basically, I can't really get down with you because you're not feminine enough. You're acting like a man. You're acting like me. You know what I'm saying? So now you have this phenomenon going on that somehow that men are going to find femininity in outside of the country because women in the West has been taught to be independent, to talk back to their men, to slap their men, to challenge them, to say that I can do the same jobs that a man can do, and that's just not true. All resources that women get comes from a man. There's no way that she basically, there's no such thing as a woman having her own money. What does that mean? You having your own money. Bullcrap. And degrees do not measure up to what men can do when they produce in society. So the feminist movement have really taught women this, and it's a growing situation even in the white communities where Brad and Chad is also saying that they're having the same problem with these white women. Okay? It's not different. Even Lee, Asians, men are saying that their women are getting out of control here. Okay? Mexican women. I'm sorry, Mexican men or Latino men saying that their women are getting out of control. So these women are in the West have became so combative that that now men are starting to realize that relationship and putting a ring on these women's finger is not worth it. Imagine you've been in a relationship with a masculine woman, and therefore, she is talking about back to you, slapping you in your mouth, looking at other. She get mad because you're looking at another woman. You know, she has that situation where she is basically putting on a masculine frame. Okay, and of course, the ultimate reason why black men decide to give up on dating here in the West is because a lot of women are selfish. They're not being held accountable for their selfishness, and also because of their ways of getting away with being selfish, and they basically the lack of accountability and being responsible. The black man we're taught we're is told us all the time. We're held responsible constantly in the society, even in the sense then that we're not even at fault. We're still held accountable, but women are not. They're able to basically get away with not only being selfish, but do not face accountability for their actions. And men are sick and tired of it. And this is the reason why they're dating and they're getting their passports and they're going overseas. That's a dangerous thing for the United States. Okay, I am working on another video essay, men, and certain types of industries, like let's say police officers, for instance, they are lacking a lot of people, not only in the educational field, but in police departments and firefighters and other jobs that you call your first responders. Those jobs are becoming scarce, even in a sense that they're public jobs. And women have to go on to basically try to get into those fields, and that is a masculine trait. Imagine a man married to a police officer, a female police officer, and she has to act and basically act masculine when she basically out in the field. You see, the only other person who could basically handle her in a relationship may be what? Another cop, right? And so, therefore, because not only of those feminine traits and because of dating apps and social media, are able to flake on men. They're able to basically use social apps and social media to not only flake on men, but to turn them down in order to basically feed their egos. Okay? This is the reason why men are going overseas. The vast majority of dating apps and social media, and I'm a person who can experience this, really are not going to get you any type of meeting with a woman who you really want. In order to do that, you have to go out and meet them. But dating apps have been set up and designed for women to basically flake on men, for them to continue to basically try to feed their ego, try to seek constant validation. And men are saying, listen, this is not the business. You understand? So traveling overseas is a good thing for us. Not only do we travel overseas to basically just network and probably to meet a woman, but you also travel overseas because the system of white supremacy, these folks over here, is going to constantly keep discrimination and racism going. They can't help it. These folks over here in the United States, these white supremacists who run this country, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on doing the same thing they've been doing. And even in America, in its decline, of course, because America is declining. Imagine you not having enough people to enforce the system of white supremacy. You understand? It's okay for you to get out. It's okay for you to say that I got allies and Hispanics and Asians and people over here, the feminist people. But if those folks are not going to the army for you, if they're not fighting for the country, like they're not, like Jim Crow Joe Biden, not to get off the subject, when he's given all of these other groups money, resources, and ignoring the black man and not giving us no resources, that's all fine and dandy. But what happens when you don't have nobody to fight for your country no more? See, black men, out of every person in the society, including black women, we have fought in every war this nation has had. So we are entitled to go out into other countries to relax, to get away from this Jim Crow system, to get away from the racism and the white supremacist system, to get away from the police and all these other people, to get away from black women nagging on us, you know what I'm saying, using the system of white supremacy against us by calling the police on every little thing, putting black men on child support, you see. I mean, some men don't need to be. I'm just saying that these are all of the scenarios that men are looking at as saying this is a problem. Okay, and I'm like, well, why men? Why black men are just now realizing that? So what are you talking about? Okay, you're just now waking up to see that you're not going to get cooperation as far as relationship in this society. You're just now recognizing that. Foolish, thinking that you're going to get some cooperation with women under the system of white supremacy. Come on, man. Come on, you know. But no, this YouTuber named Austin Holman, he talked about his experience, you know. And shout out to Austin. He talked about his experience of dating women in Brazil. And one of the things that he talked about how when he wanted to go date in Brazil, he laid out the factual points of why he stopped dating in the United States. Okay, he gave real value points. Let's see, hold on. Screw two is messing up my live. I'm almost done with you, Screw. Okay, okay. Women in America are selfish. They only worry about themselves. They basically not only are they selfish here, they basically will use the system of white supremacy against their men. You understand? And so you cannot basically maintain a real true relationship under the system of white supremacy. Millie Fuller taught us that. Millie Fuller taught us that, you know, you can't promise a woman all of the things that you can promise, that a white man can promise her in a system like this. Because because you got to go on a job and work and work and work and work, and then you're talking about taking some woman down the aisle and marrying them. Okay, you can't promise her that. Not in the system of white supremacy, because if you ain't got permission from the white supremacists, you can't do that because he is the one to tell you, boy, no, you're not going to marry her, and you're not going on a vacation, and you're not going to the Bahamas, and I'm not going to give you no paycheck and no money to do so. You see, and so therefore you become homeless, you be kicked out in the streets, and then here come the white supremacists say, no, you're not taking her nowhere. What do you mean you're going to go and take her out to this place to eat and that place to eat? I'm going to make sure you don't take her nowhere. You see, and now you become homeless. You see, and the white supremacists come and show up and say, yeah, I told you you can't guarantee your women that, and you better not be out there sleeping under my bridge either. Okay, everywhere you go, the system of white supremacy is there. That's the reason why your women act a fool, because they know that they can get away with it under the system of white supremacy. You see? That's the reason why you can't reason with your women as black men. So traveling overseas, you will then also going to get the same thing from women overseas too, as they become more Americanized, and by in their country and their presidents and all of the people who govern around there start to talk that democracy stuff. Okay, like in Kenya, for instance, women in Kenya try to mimic black women or women in general in America. You see, so they basically, if you go meet someone in Kenya, for instance, even if you don't bring her back here to the States, in which I basically recognize you not do, even if she comes back, she's not only going to be able to be Americanized here, but she's also learning the same stuff in Kenya as well, and she can treat you the same way that you say black women treat you here in the States. You see, so it's just depending, but that's the reason why the East, like in China and Russia, they are communists, Iran communists, because they control what their women do. They control how their women are going out in society. Like you're not going to go out in the East. You're not going to go out as a woman. You're not going to wear no bikini, and you're not going to have your body on social media doing that. It's just not going to happen. Not in their society. They tell their women, listen, you can't even go out with your husband after 9 o'clock. And so they wear these robes and stuff over their head, over their bodies to cover up their body parts. You see, that is very fundamentally different than what women do in in the United States or in the West. You see, you know. So black men traveling overseas, it just depends on where they go, of course, to be appreciated. A lot of black men who goes to Brazil, of course, argues that they get treated real good in Brazil. That women in Brazil, black women in Brazil, cater to them, or women in general cater to them in Brazil. You see, which is very interesting because if you basically bring that woman back from Brazil over here, she start learning the American culture. You're going to, of course, now start to experience this, her doing the same thing that you're accusing American women of doing already. You see, you see. So the thing that you have to do is keep her away from that American culture, and the only way to do that is to go and stay in Brazil. Okay, if that's what you want to do, you see. But getting our passports, just getting our passports. Like I said, I'm working on getting mine too. I think traveling overseas is very fundamentally necessary. I do, but not to just go meet somebody. But the networking situation is very important. Okay, you want to see the world before you die. That's very important to see the world. Don't be secluding yourself to just the United States. And that's the reason why black people have not expanded their horizon and their mentality because they have not learned to travel overseas or to basically learn about the world. Okay? And that's the reason then why when you stay in this oppressive system here in America, you're dealing with the effects of police corruption and brutality. You're dealing with the racism on your job. Some old bootlicking Negro trying to get you fired and trying to impress the white man. You have all of those things to worry about in America. You see, of course you do. But Austin Holloman is right. They're saying that he's becoming almost like the next Kevin Samuel. He basically is teaching black men, well, not teaching black men, but he is basically just giving them reasons why he is dating right now in Brazil. Like I said, I don't really believe in interracial dating or marriage, but you're not really in an interracial marriage if you're dating a black person, in my opinion, in Brazil or a black person in Africa. Okay, unless you're dealing with some white South African, you know. So some black men think the solution is interracial marriages and dating, and some black men believe that the solution is outside of the country. Okay, but regardless of where you go, it doesn't matter. The system of white supremacy is global. You stay in a global system. Okay, you can travel overseas all you want to go and meet women. The system of white supremacy is going to be everywhere. It might come in different forms overseas, of course, but it's the same everywhere under this system, right? And of course, women are going to always be selfish because here in the West, they've learned and they have been taught, especially by these Negro preachers, to be selfish, you see. But that really didn't happen when we had our mothers and our fathers was here, our grandparents. That selfishness was not there, okay? But now this new generation of women and men are selfish, of course, not wanting to share anything, always thinking about themselves and not thinking about others. Under white supremacy, of course, we've learned to be selfish among each other. That's the reason why talking that Christian value stuff doesn't mean nothing in this country. Understand? ScrewTube has to always mess with my connections. I don't know why, but it does. But a lot of stuff is a part of it. Feminism basically taught women, oh, you can be bad by yourself, all this old stupid stuff. And it's just becoming a crisis. Dating in America has become a crisis. Social media and dating apps is one of the reasons, of course, along with the feminist movement, becoming a crisis for us as black men in our relationship with women. And so therefore, if you're going to travel overseas, be very careful if you're going to basically travel in these countries where you don't know about the cultures. Some cultures are very different, of course. So yeah. I mean, that's a hot topic. I mean, of course, I have to always put my 2 cents in. And so I'll do another video recording because I think a lot of times ScrewTube will cut off my sound, right? So if that happens, just make sure that you just wait a moment and then I'll do another video upload. If my sound is stopped by ScrewTube. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. Also, in addition to that, my Cash App is also there as well. So, if you want to do what they call a bless offering, then that is always basically appreciated, well appreciated. Okay. But yeah, what do you think about this? I just had to come on to talk about this. That was very enlightening. That means that the Lawyer Henderson podcast show is going on.